What's up, guys? It's UBG, Ultra Blue Gengar, also known as King Kaido's one and only pick when it comes to Pokemon battles. And before we get into it today, I wanna start by saying I'm sorry. I I didn't do y'all right in those last two videos, the Icehead Gill and the Shoujo Null videos. I got a little ahead of myself. But today we got a fun one planned. I was sitting thinking, okay, if I need to take a step back, I need to make sure I'm doing something I'm passionate about, something I really enjoy, something I feel. There was really only one thing that popped into my head. There's this theory, this One Piece theory that I've been working on for a little over a year now. It's something that I found intoxicating as I studied. You know, I'll be the first to admit I don't know much about Japanese mythology or, the old Russian folk tales, folklore. But for this theory, I had to dig into both. And, you know, in the process, I stumbled upon how One Piece is going to play out in the end. Now, if you don't mind, if you'll allow me a few minutes of your day, I'd like to explain to you guys how I got here. Because this involves three stories. One we're all familiar with, the journey of our boy Luffy and his fight against evil, otherwise known as Emu and Blackbeard. But there's also three figures in Japanese mythology you may be familiar with because of Naruto, probably most likely. But we had some references in Yu Yu Hakusho back in the day as well. Got to give a shout out to them. But allow me to introduce you to Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, and Susanoo. The three heavenly children, three precious children. I can't remember exactly what it was. Essentially, the three supreme deities of the Japanese mythos. But as I said, the Russian folklore also had a bit to do with this. So, for the last time, let me introduce you to a figure known as a Domovoy, a figure known as a Leshy, and everybody's favorite Ant-Man reference, the Baba Yaga. So, without further ado, let's get into it, guys, because this one's gonna be a ride. So, I do feel like it'd be more prudent for me to start off with the Russian folklore, namely just because it's probably the most straightforward out of the two mythos that are involved in coming up with this theory. And everybody's pretty familiar with the Baba Yaga, so I'll start there. And when I say people are familiar with the Baba Yaga, it's more like it's known as the Russian boogeyman, for better or for worse. But while that might be partially true, it's a little deeper than that, because there are a few notable features of the Baba Yaga that relate to our story in One Piece. Most notably, the Baba Yaga in most cases was seen as three individuals, either sharing a body or an appearance. They were also said to reside in a house on chicken legs. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Really enjoyed watching my buddy do a playthrough of the Lara Croft remake trilogy, and I can't remember which one of the games, but one of them had a Baba Yaga mission, and man, like they took that house on chicken legs literally. That was fun. That was pretty funny. But moving forward, the Baba Yaga, not a lot of people outside of the Eastern Europe area, probably, definitely not here in America, are familiar with the Baba Yaga's connection to the moon. And finally, while it may be called the Russian boogeyman, as I said, the Baba Yaga is a bit deeper than that. It, depending on the story you look up, could have been seen as an evil entity, could have been seen as a benevolent entity, could have just been seen as somebody trying to cause mischief and have fun. The long and the short of it is, the Baba Yaga was an ambiguous character, somebody who might help you, somebody who might hold you back, or, somebody who might just use you for entertainment. So, a bit deeper than Russian boogeyman, if I do say so myself. Now, we do have two other figures in this Russian folklore that are very, very less known in the Western Hemisphere. In fact, in my research, I ended up having to reach out on Discord, on Reddit, on a few different platforms to try and get some assistance, making sure that I had, good information for you guys. Well, shoot, I can't even say for you guys, because I've been working on this long before I even thought about doing YouTube. So let's go ahead and talk about the Domovoy next, because it was rather interesting character to research. The Domovoy was essentially a house spirit, meaning it was seen as a benevolent spirit, a good spirit that would help the family and protect the household. And oftentimes, when a family would move back in the days, they would make sacrifices and hold a ritual to invite the Domovoy to come with them to the new abode, because having that guardian spirit at your house was seen as a good thing. And even, if the family was just getting ready to go on a road trip, maybe, head on down the block, couple cities over, family reunion, they know they're going to be gone for a couple days. Most of the time, the family would take a moment of silence. They would just stop and rest before leaving the house, as a way of paying homage to the Domovoy. Let them know that, hey, we didn't forget about you. Now, it wasn't like you would do with your cat or your dog, where, you pet him a couple times, go, hey, mama's going to be home, daddy's going to be home later, don't worry, I'll come see you after work, I'll bring you a snack type thing. It was more in the vein of, attempting to trick the Domovoy, for better or for worse, where, from the reading I did, felt more like trying to trick the spirit with silence. You get somebody used to the silence. When it is quiet, they're less likely to notice that you're gone for a while. Now, after a while, they're gonna look. They're gonna end up seeing, hey, the boy isn't home. What's going on? Where'd he go? But it was just a tradition and a ritual. And, from what I understand, even something that some of our Slavic, Russian, Eastern Europe friends may still do to this day. Now, it may have nothing to do with the Domovoy. It might. It's just one of those things that has become tradition, deeper than the mythos that started it. And a final few notes on the Domovoy. They were often seen as ancient spirits that were passed down through the family. So, as your kids got married and went off to start families of their own, or, just got married and ended up taking over the household, the domovoi would oftentimes go with the new family. They were also very easily pleased. You know, it wasn't unheard of for temper tantrums, more or less, to be thrown. And really, you just had to kind of talk to them, make some offerings, stuff like that, and it would stop. It'd go back to being, peaceful times. And one of the last things of note with the domovoi is that more often than not, they were perceived by sound, not sight. Meaning they would rattle the cupboards, shake the silverware drawer, scratch a chair across the floor, things like that. Things where you're going to hear that something's going on, but even if you investigate, you're not really going to see anything. That being said, it wasn't uncommon for a domovoi to take on a physical visage. There was one caveat with that, though, in this vein, that if you did come into contact with the domovoi of your house and they had the visage of you, it was a bad omen. It was seen as your warning that death is coming. Which, if you think about it, is kind of cool, because the domovoi, knowing that this is about to happen, is doing what it can to try and let this person know, hey, even after you're gone, boy, even after you're gone, homie, I'm not going to let the family forget about you. You're a part of me, I'm a part of you, we're all part of this family. Which, I tend to wear my heart on my sleeve, so that hits me. Now, we're going to move on to the last one in the Russian folklore section of this, the figure known as a Leshy. There really weren't too many points of note. Honestly, digging into this figure was the most trouble I had. It really, really feels like an enigma, something that was feared, not to be studied type thing. But there is information out there, so let's go over that real quick. The Leshy is almost exclusively portrayed as some type of humanoid shapeshifter. Now, that means they could change their size, they could change their form. They were more malleable to adapt to what was around them so that they could interact with it. The Leshy were oftentimes believed to roll around in like kind of a community, in the sense of there were groups of them, and within those groups there would be one that sat just a little higher than the rest, one that would lead that group going forward, lead them to success, lead them to ruin, whatever it may be. So there were hierarchies within these little communities of theirs. They were heavily associated with kidnapping and cannibalism, as well as being portrayed with devilish wings and tails. So, for better or for worse, more or less, the Leshy could be seen as the Russian folklore version of the devil, which, in any mythos, in any religion, anything like that, you're gonna have the opposite side of whatever higher entity your religion, your mythos chooses to worship. There's always going to be that inverse counter to that. And it just seems like that's what the Leshy was for the Russian folklore. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and transition into the next part. You know, before going in, I gotta say I especially had fun with this part because I love the culture and tradition of Japanese society. I thoroughly enjoy researching the mythos and histories of that country. Not 100% sure why, because if I remember right, Native Americans came to the Americas from Russia, I want to say. But, there's a chance. The Japanese archipelago isn't that far from Russia and the area where it used to connect to Alaska. So, maybe there's something there. Not 100% sure why I enjoy studying the Japanese culture so much. I just really do. So, and outside of that, there's just more known about it available to a Western audience. So I was able to dig up a bit more information and some stories about these characters. Because Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, and Susanoo, well, yeah, they were given pretty powerful abilities in Naruto. Amaterasu being a flame that can't be put out and consumes everything. Tsukuyomi being an unbreakable genjutsu, basically, Itachi throws that at you, he's just mindful, yeah, basically. And Susanoo was an unbreakable armor that was malleable and could be fitted to each individual. So these three characters are nowhere near as enigmatic, but I did still find some interesting details about them while I was doing research for this. Now obviously Amaterasu is, being the representation or the god of the sun in the Japanese mythos, essentially the leader of heaven, of the other kami, which of note, I just kind of find this interesting. I don't think it relates to this theory at all, but there were over 8 million of these gods. Obviously, with that many, you got some doing way lesser stuff. But it is still a number to keep in the back of your mind, because there could be a lot of celestial dragons. Could have been a lot of the Will of D members back in the day. I like I said, not really a part of this theory, just some fun to think about, if you ain't got nothing else better to do. Now, I'll go over some of this a little bit quicker. According to the Kojiki, from what I found, the Kojiki is essentially the most widely accepted account of the Japanese mythos. But according to the Kojiki, Materasu, Tsukuyomi, and Susanoo were born from Izanagi after he returned from the underworld, where he was trying to reclaim his dead wife, Izanami. Amaterasu was created when Izanagi, sorry about that, y'all. When Izanagi washed out his left eye. Curious. Now, we got to keep in mind, ancient times had much different cultural stereotypes, cultural traditions than we're used to today. I only mention that because, as with most ancient religions and mythologies, you got the sight of incest. Now, I didn't see anything about these two actual, consummating anything, but in just about every account, Amaterasu was married to Tsukuyomi at one point. There was an incident, now that one I'm going to go over when we get to Tsukuyomi here in a minute, but there was an incident that led to Amaterasu split, telling him, nah, you go, I'm gonna go over here. This is how the Japanese mythos explains the day and night cycle. Because after the incident, Amaterasu ran across the sky, and then Tsukuyomi chased, gave pursuit. So we got the cycle of the sun and moon, the cycle of days. Now, there was another incident with Susanoo. And again, I'm going to go over that in a little more detail here in a bit when we get to the Susanoo section. But this incident impacted Amaterasu so much that they bounced. They dipped out and they hid in a cave for millennia, extinguishing the light in the world. It wasn't until a kami known as Omoikane managed to come up with a plan to trick Amaterasu into coming out of the cave. Now, if I may say so myself, I thought it was a pretty ingenious plan. What he ended up doing was getting all the other major kami together and being all, hey, you know what, guys, let's throw a party. Like, what? Why are we gonna throw a party, dude? Like, our leader's hiding out, doesn't want anything to do with us. There's nothing to celebrate. And he's all, nah. Trust me. We're gonna throw a party because Amaterasu is gonna get curious and poke her head out. And I'm gonna tell her, hey, we're doing golden. There was a new god born, even stronger than you. So if you want to stay there, that's fine. We're good on this end. At which point Amaterasu, pride was inflamed, stepped out of the cave, to wit immediately the other kami closed it and sealed it. But as she stepped out, a mirror appeared in front of her. Now, you kind of gotta bend the definition of believability when you're dealing with a lot of mythologies. Because I only mention that because even though this mirror appeared after she came out, she still believed that the reflection was this other god. I find it interesting that the plan, the route taken to bring the sun god back out of hiding and into the world was throw a big ass party and tell her, nah, we found somebody stronger. Now, let's go ahead and move down to Tsukuyomi, the representation or god of the moon. As mentioned before, the Tsukuyomi was a sibling of Amaterasu and former consort. They were the god of the moon. After, I'm just going to refer to it as Susanoo Incident 1.5 for now. Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi were essentially left in charge of the heavens exclusively. The Tsukuyomi incident that I mentioned a few moments ago was Amaterasu was summoned, invited to a feast being held by one of the other kami. Hold on, let me find her name. Kami Ukamochi? I'll put it on screen so you can, figure out how it's enunciated. But Ukamochi was the goddess of food. So, because Amaterasu didn't have the ability to attend the feast herself, she asked her consort Tsukuyomi, can you go over here for me, man? Like, I really want to be there. I don't want to disrespect my girl Ukamochi. I don't have the ability. So Tsukuyomi, being the good consort he was, attended. What he witnessed irked him to his core so bad that he killed Ukamochi. Now, I gotta say, if I saw what he saw, I'd be a little troubled too. I'd be, you know what, we'll conversate, we'll hang out, we'll have a good time. I might drink some of your wine, but I'm gonna get McDonald's on the way out. Like, no offense, but I'm gonna grab some BK on the way out. Being the goddess of food, Ukamochi's power was to produce it. Her chosen way of doing that was some methods that are real sketch. Like I said, if I saw somebody producing food like that too, I don't think I'd kill that person though. I'd give him a piece of my mind, like, hey fool, don't feed me no vomit. Don't peel off your skin and give me it like it's a potato chip. Like, no. I wouldn't do what Tsukuyomi did. So I do find it 100% relatable that Amaterasu told him peace and bounced when he got back. Sorry guys, sometimes I make weird mouth noises. I gotta check my notes though. There's a lot going on this one. Moving forward though, to refer back to the Kojiki as I did with Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi was born when Izanagi washed his right eye. Parallels. Perhaps. Tsukuyomi was also a very hypocritical being. While he preached wanting etiquette and order, he was not beyond going to questionable measures, including 86ing some people he thought might be disruptive to that etiquette and order. So, while being seen as a benevolent god by most, he was a hypocrite. He was ambiguous. He was, could have given you what you needed, what you wanted in that moment. Could have also taken everything from you. So he was oftentimes seen as a benevolent being, somebody who wanted good for his people. He had a very much ambiguous nature, but the most notable thing about Tsukuyomi, those are the stories you can find out about him readily. Not much is available to be known about Tsukuyomi. Amaterasu, there's so much information available. I kind of had to nitpick, like, okay, yeah, man, like these ones fit. Now that's not to say a bunch of the other information is saying that, the theory's false. I would say, Japanese mythology is a fantastic read. Definitely dig into Amaterasu a bit yourself, because that figure has been used so much in anime and manga, it almost feels sacrilegious for us not to know about it while still enjoying this content. Now, I'm not gatekeeping. You enjoy your content however you want. If you'd like to talk about it, hey man, I'm always down to talk about One Piece. I love this franchise. I love this series. Now, yeah, that was page 1. We'll flip over to page 2. We're going to move on to Susanoo now. Susanoo was the god of seas and storms. But wait, Amaterasu got the sun, Tsukuyomi got the moon. These are both heavenly bodies. How come Susanoo doesn't get his own heavenly body? Well, according to the Kojiki, hold on. Susanoo was born when Izanagi washed his nose. Sorry about that. Uh, when Susanoo was born, now you may remember me saying that Izanagi ended up taking a bath and creating these three gods after returning from the underworld in an attempt to save his dead wife. Susanoo, after being born, was non-stop crying for his mom. He missed her, even though he had never known her, and he wanted her, but she was nowhere to be found. This ultimately made Izanagi upset, and Izanagi banished Susanoo from the heavens for crying, bro. For crying. Like, I don't know, kids cry. It's what they do. They want attention, they want love. They don't want to be banished from heaven. I can promise you that. Now, as messed up as that story is, Susanoo did not immediately leave. Upon receiving word of his banishment, he wanted to go talk to his sister, his older sister, Amaterasu, one more time, say goodbye, as it were, before leaving and heading down to the Japanese archipelago. But Amaterasu was suspicious. She wasn't quite sure if she could trust her brother. So she approached him, armor-clad as a male. They ended up talking, and Susanoo was just trying to convince her, like, hey, no, I'm not trying to do anything bad. I just wanted to see my big sister one more time before I left. So, in an attempt to decipher whether or not he was being honest with her, she came up with a game. Sorry, hiccups right now, don't know what's going on. I use the term game kind of loosely here. It was more of a contest of champions, if you will. But what Amaterasu proposed was, we'll each take an item of each other's, consume it, and give birth to gods. Now, I tried digging into the both manuscripts. I don't speak Japanese, so I had to rely a lot on Google Translate and stuff. Some other people were telling me on Reddit and Discord. But not sure what the actual win condition was for the contest. But what ended up happening was Materasu took Susanoo's sword and took 3 big bites out of it and spat out 3 goddesses. Yeah. And Susanoo, sorry, I'm trying to pull in the information. And Susanoo ate Amaterasu's beaded necklace and spat out 5 gods. 5 gods. Curious. Now, because the gods that Susanoo created were male, Amaterasu claimed them while giving Susanoo the 3 goddesses that she had created. There's not really a lot more information known after this, outside of Susanoo declared himself the winner and went on an absolute rampage through Amaterasu's lands, destroying fields, crapping in her chairs. Like, it was bad. It was a toddler's rampage of the most almighty sorts. Now, this ultimately led to one of Amaterasu's prize steeds being flayed and heaved through the roof of one of her weaving huts, killing one of her handmaidens. This is the incident I spoke about in the Amaterasu portion that ultimately drove Amaterasu into hiding. So during that time that Ama was AFK, Susanoo kind of had the run of the lands. There wasn't really anybody who was stepping up. he was ultimately expelled from the heavens when Amaterasu did reemerge from the cave, bringing the light and the day back to the Japanese archipelago. Now, I do find it interesting that while Buddhism and Taoism did absorb these gods in their induction, Susanoo was more or less relegated to an evil spirit, somebody not to be trusted. From my understanding, there is still at least one shrine or temple for him in Japan. Again, being from America, living in America, having never had the chance to travel to Japan, I cannot tell you firsthand. I can only say that I do remember reading something about there still being a temple. I'm not sure how old that was. But, to digress back to the point, Susanoo essentially became the devil of the Japanese mythos. Whether or not that was intended on creation, whether or not the Kojiki and the original tales of Susanoo intended it for it to be that way, I don't think so, because immediately after being expelled and reaching the Japanese archipelago, dude went on a redemption arc. Like in that moment when he hit land, it's like everything became clear. He realized he had messed up. So Susanoo went on a redemption arc. We'll see where this goes in a moment. Now I'm gonna, because this video is already getting a bit longer, it looks like we're coming up on just over 30 minutes now. I'm gonna try and get through the One Piece characters rather quickly, because we're all probably at least vaguely familiar with all of this stuff. Now, I'm gonna start off with our boy Luffy, the main character, the hero, our boy, the one, him. Luffy is the protector of the Sunny. When, end of the day, worst comes to worst, you're staring down Kaido, Luffy's the one going in. Yeah, Zoro might, end up helping out, taking up the reins for a minute to give his captain a breather, but at the end of the day, Luffy is the protector of the Sunny. The Hito no Mi Madonika Devil Fruit is an ancient spirit. Now, we don't have confirmation one way or the other whether or not Nika was an entity outside of Joy Boy, whether Joy Boy was like Talos from Skyrim and ascended to being a deity. Not 100% sure on that yet. I have no doubts that we will find out. To the point of being perceived by sound, Joy Boy and Nika are really perceived once the drums of liberation start. Now, the rest of the crew sees Luffy, but when other characters hear those drums, they know that Nika is close. To the point of being easily pleased, like the Domovoy, our boy Luffy is easily pleased. You want to be Luffy's friend, you give him food. You want to be his best friend, you give him meat. It's that simple. The Willa D is, I am actually working on another video concerning the Willa D. Don't know if I'm gonna drop it or not. But the Willa D is essentially a spirit that's been passed down through generations of this D clan. I don't want to say family, because they're not all related. It is rightfully called a clan because it is the D clan is made up of an amalgam of different races, all kinds of things. Cut under the left eye. Maybe this is just me falling too deep down the rabbit hole, but I can't help but feel like that's a pretty clear indication of the connection to Amaterasu. Nika himself has been AFK for around 800 years. Now, I have heard word and I have heard some theories about 200 years ago in the story, and I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out, because what we've been given in the Egghead arc would lead one to believe that perhaps, if not fully awakened, somebody came close to awakening the powers of Nika around 200 years ago. So I'm definitely keeping my eyes on that one. I'd like to see where that goes. I'll be the first to admit, if it does turn out somebody awakened the fruit 200 years ago, that alone probably puts a big old shotgun hole in the middle of this theory. Because Amaterasu didn't, spend 600 years in the cave, come out for a little bit, and then dip back in for 200. No, when she was out, they sealed that. They made sure she couldn't go back. And to the point of, the way the gods tricked Amaterasu into coming out of that cave was by saying, nah, we found somebody stronger than you. We're not worried. You do you, boo. We got this. Luffy's always trying to find somebody stronger to fight. Like, my dude has a goal. He has a dream. He has an end game. We don't know what that is. All we know is that becoming Pirate King is a step. But, this guy is always stepping up to get stronger and fight stronger people. Take that for what you will. Moving on to Blackbeard, I do kind of want to cover Emu last because there's a sub-theory there. Blackbeard, there is a popular theory, pertaining to Blackbeard's situation because of his Jolly Roger being the 3 skulls with the 8 bones around it. There is a popular theory that Blackbeard himself is just 3 people sharing a body, 3 spirits sharing a body. Now, if you can look at Blackbeard and tell me this doesn't look like a big ass house walking around on chicken legs, I don't get why you stayed this long anyway, but I appreciate it. I really do. Blackbeard is heavily connected to the moon, to the point where sometimes he's just out there looking at it, just holding his knees, looking at the moon. I'm sure he's thinking about something. I don't know what that is, though. He's been chasing Luffy since Jaya. You got to remember that Ace being captured was not his plan. His goal was Luffy. He wanted to capture Luffy to turn him in to the world government to become a Shichibukai, warlord of the sea. But outside of this, just like Tsukuyomi, this is what we know. You can speculate and theorize beyond that, but we don't know a lot about Blackbeard. He is a mysterious and enigmatic character. Enigmatic. Sorry, guys. Been talking for a long time. We're just about done, though. I got one more for y'all. Getting down to Imu-sama. And I'm throwing the Gorosei in here by extension as well. We'll get to that in just a moment. They all appear to be shapeshifters. Obviously humanoid. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to say obviously with Emu, but the general build of the silhouette that we get is humanoid. So we have 6 humanoid shapeshifters living in a society led by one of them. So we got a group of these beings living together, but one setting higher than the rest. Emu backwards is Umi. This is something that's well known in the community. Umi being a reference to the seas themselves. We got 5 Gorosei, as well as 5 gods created by Susanoo. The celestial dragons usurped Nika Joy Boy approximately 800 years ago. So, we've been waiting some millennia. And Imu and the Gorosei's powers thus far, now, heavily emphasized thus far, because the only one we have confirmation of is Saint Saturn at this point, but judging by silhouettes and actions done during the end of the Reverie arc, Imu and the Gorosei's powers do appear to be connected to demons in some way. So, you've sat through 39 minutes. You may be wondering to yourself, alright, UBG, what's this theory? How does the story end? You promised me to tell me how the story ends. I got you, fam. Just like Tsukuyomi and the Baba Yaga in their respective stories, being ambiguous characters that really are out for what they want. So is Blackbeard. He is a mysterious and enigmatic character. He's somebody we don't know a lot about, but something I've been paying a little more close attention to as I'm rereading some of these arcs is Blackbeard, damn fly, Blackbeard I know this is going to be a hot take. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to summon the hockey to say this right now. Outside of capturing Ace, which ultimately led to Ace's death, and the killing and stealing of Whitebeard's devil fruit, Blackbeard hasn't done a lot of bad stuff, at least not stuff that would cement him as an evil person in Luffy's eyes. Yes, right now, if Luffy and Blackbeard came together and Luffy was not wanting to hear nothing from Blackbeard, like he wanted the smoke and nothing else, they're gonna fight. But even in that situation, the fight's gonna take a while. Blackbeard's going to have a chance to talk. Blackbeard, I'm gonna say it now, has a dream, a goal, that even if just in a small way aligns with Luffy's, they both want change in the world government. Now, yes, Blackbeard is a little more that, what we've been told Rocks is, where it's kind of insinuated that Blackbeard wants to be the one in control, whereas Luffy just wants change so everybody can be free, at least seemingly. I don't really have a theory on what Luffy's dream is. I'm sure, there's somebody out there that's got a theory that is great, is well thought out, put together. And, I'd love to hear about it. So if you got one of those, hit me up. I'm, like I said, always down to talk about One Piece. But getting back to the theory, I'm going to just put it plain and simple. Blackbeard is going to help Luffy take down Imu. What I am most curious about at this point is, does the story leave off in a place where Imu then has a redemption arc? Now, I do not personally want to see that play out in the manga or anime. Imu, the Gorosei, and Celestial Dragons have been painted in the worst possible light. Susanoo was a pretty bad character, though. he did a lot of stuff that would have given Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi any number of reasons to tell him to buzz off. But he did have his redemption arc. Now, I really hope there's not like a follow-up two-piece manga where, you know, maybe Imu is working with Luffy and Blackbeard in some weird Triforce, triangle, trifecta type thing. I really don't want that, but I do feel like it'd be a good way to end a story. Have the big fight. Have these two characters who have already fought. Now, even if it's not exactly how I played out, where, you know, Blackbeard rolls up and Luffy immediately attacks, even if it's something like where Aokiji or Garp are forced to send a message to the Straw Hats, and they're put in a position where they have to listen to Blackbeard. Even if that's the case, even if, you know, Luffy hears out whatever Blackbeard has to say and is like, yeah, you know what, okay, you're not as bad as I thought. Blackbeard is still ultimately responsible for putting Ace in a situation where Sakazuki had the opportunity to 86 him. There are going to be consequences to that. Luffy is going to want to fight Blackbeard. All I'm saying is that final war, the Blackbeard pirates will be fighting alongside Luffy and the Grand Fleet. But, you know, before I go off on another tangent about how that war is actually going to play out, because I got a theory about that one too. If you guys are interested, you know, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd be more than happy to talk about One Piece with y'all some more. But as always, this has been UBG, Ultra Blue Gengar, and this has been a theory. A One Piece. No, I'm not even going to do it to my boy. I love the Game Theory channel. Thank you guys for your time. Don't forget, if you like Kaiju number 8, Undead Unluck, don't forget to check out the boys over at Doffy Daze. Dalton and Darzus slaying it week after week over there. And if you know you don't want to leave a comment but you still want to talk about One Piece, don't forget to check out their channel. Hit me up on Discord. Just don't be rude about it. It is their Discord. Thank you guys for your time. I'll see you in the next one.